So you want to own a prison. Before you buy the land, hire the guards, or install several miles of fencing, you need one thing: a customer willing to send you prisoners. That customer is the government. Without a government contract, your new prison is just an extremely expensive building where every bedroom locks from the outside. Private prisons exist because governments sometimes decide they need more detention space without wanting to build, staff, and operate another facility themselves. Instead, they hire a private company to provide the beds, the employees, the food, the security, and nearly everything else required to keep the prison functioning. You supply the facility, the government supplies the people. Then it pays you for every day they remain inside. There are several ways to enter the business. You could own the prison building and lease it to an operator. You could operate a facility owned by the government. Or you could own the property, run the prison, and take responsibility for the entire operation. That final option offers the most control, but it also means that every staffing shortage, medical emergency, broken lock, escaped prisoner, and blocked toilet eventually becomes your problem. Prison ownership begins with land. You need a large site with room for housing units, administration buildings, medical facilities, kitchens, recreation yards, service roads, parking, loading areas, and multiple layers of perimeter security. The location also has to satisfy the government. A remote site may offer cheap land and fewer neighbors, but it makes hiring more difficult. It also increases transportation costs for employees, visitors, lawyers, medical teams, and the agencies moving prisoners in and out. Build too close to a city, and the neighbors may object. Build too far away, and nobody wants to work there. Congratulations! Your first challenge is finding land that is isolated, accessible, affordable, and somehow popular. Then you need to build the facility. A prison may look like a collection of plain concrete buildings, but every part of it is specialized. Doors must resist tampering. Windows cannot open. Furniture may need to be fixed in place. Hallways must allow officers to control movement without losing visibility. You need surveillance cameras, secure control rooms, perimeter sensors, reinforced fencing, medical areas, visitation rooms, isolation units, kitchens, laundry facilities, backup generators, and communication systems that continue working during emergencies. The result can cost tens of millions of dollars for a smaller facility. A large, high-security prison can cost well over $100 million. You are essentially building a small town. The difference is that nobody is allowed to move away. Once the facility exists, you need to win a contract. Government agencies do not usually hand prisoners to someone because they have an impressive gate. They want proof that you can operate the facility safely, meet legal requirements, hire qualified staff, provide medical care, and survive financially. You may also need years of correctional experience before an agency will trust you with a major contract. This is why the industry is dominated by large operators. They already have the management teams, insurance, training systems, political relationships, and operating history required to compete. A new owner would probably need to partner with an experienced operator rather than begin alone. The contract determines how the prison earns money. Many agreements use a daily payment for each person housed inside the facility. This is often called a per diem rate. Suppose the government pays $110 per prisoner each day. A facility holding 1,000 people would produce $110,000 in daily revenue. That becomes more than $40 million a year. Now subtract everything required to prevent the facility from collapsing into chaos. Staffing is usually the largest expense. A prison must operate every hour of every day. You need correctional officers, supervisors, administrators, maintenance workers, kitchen staff, nurses, counselors, teachers, transportation crews, and people trained to respond when something catches fire, someone gets injured, or several hundred residents decide they dislike the schedule. You cannot close early because 3 guards called in sick. You cannot leave one wing unattended until Monday. Understaffing creates safety problems, increases overtime, and can put the entire contract at risk. Then there is food. A large prison may prepare thousands of meals every day. The food has to meet nutritional standards while remaining cheap, predictable, and difficult to use for purposes unrelated to lunch. Healthcare creates an even greater risk. Prisoners may need medication, emergency care, mental health treatment, dental services, addiction support, or transportation to outside hospitals. If care is delayed or inadequate, the operator may face investigations, lawsuits, penalties, or the loss of the contract. The government pays you to hold people. It still expects you to keep them alive. Maintenance never stops either. Locks wear out, cameras fail, plumbing systems are heavily used. Heating and cooling equipment must serve large buildings that cannot simply be evacuated when something breaks. An ordinary landlord can apologize and send someone tomorrow. A prison owner gets a phone call explaining that one broken door has disrupted the movement of 200 people. The business becomes profitable when the daily payments exceed these operating costs. That means occupancy matters. A prison built for 1,500 people costs almost the same to maintain, whether it houses 1,400 or 700. The fences still need inspection. The lights remain on. The debt still needs to be paid. Empty beds do not consume food, but they also do not generate revenue. This creates the uncomfortable center of the business. The financial model works best when the prison stays full. That does not mean the owner decides who gets arrested or how long people remain incarcerated. Courts and governments make those decisions. But it does mean the company earns more money when more people are detained for longer periods. A hotel wants guests to extend their stay. A prison operator has to explain the same financial incentive using much more careful language. Political risk can change the business overnight. A new government may reduce incarceration, cancel private contracts, change immigration enforcement, or move prisoners into public facilities. A prison that looked like essential infrastructure can suddenly become an empty, concrete liability surrounded by razor wire. You still own the building. It is simply no longer producing income, and converting it into luxury apartments may require a fairly optimistic real estate agent. Could you realistically own one? Probably not from scratch. You would need tens of millions of dollars, correctional experience, legal expertise, trained staff, insurance, government relationships, and the ability to handle constant public scrutiny. The more realistic option would be owning the real estate and leasing it, investing in an established operator, or supplying services such as food, healthcare, transportation, communications, or security equipment. So, what would owning a prison actually look like? You would spend your days managing a heavily regulated facility that never closes, serves one government customer, and becomes more profitable as its beds fill. The money can be substantial. So can the political risk, legal exposure, and moral cost. You can own a prison. The real question is whether you want to build a business where success is measured by how few rooms remain empty.